Let's do it. Welcome to Emergent Strategy Book Club, sponsored by Gimbal Labs and Logs. Today, we will collectively work on the chapter Intentional Adaptation, which means take action, adaptation with intention. Emergent Strategy was written by Adrian Marie Brown, and I will be facilitating the session today. My name is Juan Sierra, by the way. Okay, I'm going to start with the process of including roles for the meeting. I'm not a multitasking person, and I'm not an expert on facilitating. So just to help me get confident with this job that I'm learning from you guys, we will have the first will be a timekeeper. The timekeeper will be the timing for each activity is on the agenda, and for us as participants, it's just a matter of just being mindful of the time. We just have an hour of time. So I'm just thinking like 3 minutes maximum per person, or more or less if you can. We can use markers or actually work on the board to do that in the future, but for now we'll do that by here. Anyway, if anybody is interested in being the timekeeper, I appreciate that. Okay, whiteboard helper is going to be Thibaut is going to help us with that. Chat watcher, Steve, awesome, Steve, thank you so much. And yes, and then the agenda for today is basically 35 points. Housekeeping items, which is the one we are doing right now. We have 3 more minutes, I guess. This is a very dense book and chapter, very interesting, very rich with very rich content. And if we go ahead and review the whiteboard for the items that has to do with the rules, the previous and upcoming meetings. Finally, the schedule. And if you like, you can schedule yourself, you can book yourself to do the same thing I'm doing today. By the record, I'm not confident doing this. It's just learning, as all of us are. Second is framing the conversation. By that, I mean, I'm going to mention a few items that I call my attention on the book. And if you have some others, we can work on those as well. And after that, we will go to the questions from intentional adaptation. And that part is going to be interactive. We can work together on that. Actually, we are doing this together 100%. The fourth part is chalks, slides, and shifts. It's a very interesting and important part of the book. But we have just 15 minutes for that. And the most important part of the book, I think, or the session, I think, is the last, which is the 10 minutes we dedicate to reflect on the book and kind of what are the takeaways and the things that highlight our interest, and we put it on the most elegant steps. Also, the other important part is we are going to finish before 4 p.m. before 1 hour. So let's do it. What do I do? See my mirror board.
Excellent.
It's cool.
So framing the conversation. I have to read it though. Okay.
Is this the right spot on the screen?
Those are questions. Framing the conversation, actually, good point. I should put it on the board. I did not, but we can put it by the way. Someone be the one who put it on? I just mentioned them, and then we go from there. The first one is very important for all of us, which is communication. The key for everything we are doing is communication at all levels. With our peers, with the world, and to translate to them the vision that we have. And the only way to get a vision is having a united vision, is to have the right communication tools. The next item is a be like water. I think it's very important to adapt and to kind of behave like this liquid that is very important for us all the time, and adapts to every surface. So that's something that we look forward to keep in mind all the time. It's helping me a lot. The other point that I found interesting is how to ease so we can become sustainable. How to do things as fun to the point that become easy for us to do. And with that communication also comes trust and interdependence. When we have a vision, a united vision, in reality, we communicate and we develop trust and interdependence. As the trees and the tree roots interconnect each other in a way that they don't compete. They are always doing their thing, but they are together helping each other to maintain the tree upright. There are other forms to share with a community. This is one of them. In fact, we are going to use the chat as well as if someone wants to talk or access the whiteboard later, that can be done. A very important point that I find interesting is a note that she mentioned in the book. Building community is to the collective as a spiritual practice is to the individual. Requires faith and rely on the greatest part of the universe, our collective intelligence. This book has a lot of quotes, and that says a lot about it, because it's not something that she put together by herself. That was something that is the result of a lot of studying, conversations, and activity like this. So guess what? We are part of it. We are part of this book when what we are doing now, because that's what she's looking forward to have other opinions and other ways to fulfill the content of the book, or the vision of the book. With that, are we in time? Okay. So now this book also talks about facilitation. It's a very important part of it. And we can have a discussion on that, how we can help and improve and communicate the importance of intentional adaptation and then adapting awareness. It is about awareness, to be intentional, and all start with the basics from inside out: vision, mission, priorities. Then we achieve the balance to be able to share and build. So now we can go to chapter questions. They're the area that, and we can start by who wants to read one, any of them, and we just discuss about them. We have some time to do it. Who's a volunteer?
I can read one of them.
Super.
Is there anything specific you'd like me to read, or should I pick like a random card? And
the one that you want, anything you want to read.
Okay, I'll read the first one. How do we live and grow to stay purposeful in the midst of constant evolving change? Constant evolving change determines the quality of our lives and impacts as we move to action together.
It's interesting how it overlaps with something I've been literally working 2-3 weeks now, which is to align purpose, cause, and the vision between internally in teams, but also seeing that it's needed to be done in other teams in order to have that cross alignment. And there, the starting question is, what is the vision of this meeting and why are we here? And it basically starts from here. And this book already lists all the questions, which literally is useful to build a movement. And another way it could be also be built an enterprise. So because the program we are putting together is for organizations, and this is also building it for communities. And that's an interesting thing to see a same adoption already, that these are like base pillars of consensus.
Thank you, Teo. Feel free to add sticky notes as you like. Matthias?
Yeah, this is very interesting. I have a little note in front of on my desk. This has been, it's a little graph with purpose on top. And that was from taking a class at Harvard Business School online. And essentially this, the sticky, right? How do we remain purposeful in the midst of constant evolving change? And I think in order to really adapt in a way that is beneficial to us, again, this is vision comes to mind, I think purpose drives ultimately the change, because with purpose comes shared beliefs, identity, reputation, authenticity, pro-sociality, and another layer. And all that leads to what, in the context of that course at Harvard Business School online, said performance. But performance really is just change, right? Because we are executing actions, and that all starts with purpose. And I think I linked that to a discussion from last week, in that, it's easier to, predict the future if we are driving the change, right? If we are building it. And so I think purpose comes on top.
Perfect, great point. Yeah, it's not only a matter of being able to survive the storm, but also being able to know what happened after. Where do you go and what do you do? Very good point. Anyone else?
I just had a recently argument about the same thing you said. Like there are two types of people apparently, that there are people who thrive by purpose and people who just want to left to be alone and don't have a purpose. They just say they're doing things which suit them at the moment the best, and like the environment in the given situation. But I still feel like that is a purpose, that your purpose is to be left alone. But it's hard to kind of get that understanding of views, because it all then comes down to then what his previous life cycle taught him what is purpose, and the relearning aspect of relearning what is purpose is like the hardest thing, because if you base your view around that this is the way to think, then you have two different like pathways to get there. Then it's basically like a political death or like a religion death in between these people. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what I just wanted to kind of come up with that, but basically it's weird that we have this kind of dilemma between even words we use.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
I have like a small question. Do you all think purpose changes in time, or is the purpose that something that's unchangeable but everything else changes? Is it something that we constantly go back to no matter what the changes are, or do you think it is also flexible? We as human beings also change, so our purposes also change.
Very good question.
Definitely. As one of the older people here, my purpose in life has definitely changed as I've moved through life. Without going into too much, my purpose now has changed very much to wanting to develop more as a person and help other people. And years ago, I was all about looking after me, and now I'm more interested in how I can help others. So yeah, my purpose has definitely changed.
Good point. Yes, thank you, Dan. Yes, I think that's why we have to be, when we are young, we have to be very careful of where do we put, which wall do we put our ladder. Because when we get to the top, then we realize, gee, this is what we really wanted. So as more time we dedicate to the basics, as more to the vision and to the basics, as more chances are to have a stable purpose and a more fulfillment, I think. Let's go to the next question. Who wants to read another one?
I see hands from Steve and Curtis.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I hope I don't get interrupted like I did just a minute ago and get kicked out of here. This purpose thing, just because just to kind of pile on a little bit with Dan. I grew up moving around so much. I never had much respect for the local. Because moving around gave me a kind of a global view, and more so the older I got and the more places I'd lived. And now I appreciate the local, and I see, our work here as a way to liberate the local from the macro people, the people who really think in terms of manipulating masses of people and masses of resources and all of that. And, the irony about that is, where I am right now is rural, and the community at large is kind of divided between the natives who've been here their whole lives and the people who've moved here late in life, retired here, or come here to get land cheap. And Kelly, my partner, she's great, has become great at integrating herself and developing value for the local people and thus for herself. I'm terrible at it. The reality is I suck at the local because I just don't have time for these stupid conversations. And I even as I admire, like my neighbors, right? Like my neighbors are, real simple country folk, but, just in the 13 years we've been where we are, the sophistication with which they have developed their property is amazing to me, because I kind of bet the patriarch of the family, might not have much more than 1,000-word vocabulary. I might be wrong, but what he and his wife have done is simply beautiful. And they and their kids are, as far as I can tell, self-sustainable, right? They don't need the grocery store. They don't need Walmart, they don't need. And that's amazing to me. And finding my place here has been just as difficult as, if not more difficult than finding my place in the Cardano ecosystem. It's hard to tell, from my own perspective, what value do I provide here? And it's always been the question when I came into Cardano to actually be in the community. What am I bringing? And for some people, it's obvious what they bring, and other people really have to, look around, try things out, see what happens. So, purpose.
Good.
Purpose changes, it does change.
Thank you, Steve. Chris?
Yeah, so I can relate with what everybody's saying here, what Harsha and Tivo and Steve and Dan has all said about purpose, and even the shift or evolution of one's purpose. I've experienced it, myself, and what Tivo said about some people just kind of going by without a purpose and being okay with it. We can see that stuff in the world, but at sometimes I actually question, is it that our purpose is changing, or is it that we're discovering our true purpose, that we're and through the miscalculations of our previous purposes, we're getting closer and closer to that true purpose? Or is it that our purposes are actually changing, shifting, and evolving? I'm not sure.
Curtis
Thank you,
prompted Nori from his walk with that one.
Go ahead, Nori.
Speaking of change, hey everyone, it's Newman. Calling in from high above Sausalito in the Bay Area on the Bay Ridge Trail. Beautiful, beautiful out here. And I was thinking about purpose and what changes and identity. And I thought about really what changes is context, because what this place looked like 10 years ago does not like what it looks like right now, and what it looks like really 3 weeks ago before the rain is not what it looks like now. And so that our context is one of those things that has to get mixed in, because we have different purposes under different contexts. Just a 2 cents bit.
Thank you, Norman. Yes,
Uh,
indeed.
for me, one of the things that was brought up around purpose made me think about some of the conversations we've had around teal organizations, and how one of the fundamental principles is evolutionary purpose. And that's not something that you just write down, put on a wall, and everybody gets along and follows it. It's something that you're constantly sensing, constantly trying to pay attention to, and trying to understand what is this group purpose that's constantly emerging and shifting. And I do believe it changes over time. So yeah, to take it up to an organizational level, I think even at an org level, purpose can and maybe even should change over time. Here's where I'm walking. I'm enjoying a bit of nature and getting some exercise. But yeah, thanks. I continue to listen.
Thank you for that view.
Thank you, Nori. Thank you for that experience of walking and doing this. Doesn't make me feel that guilty when I do that. Not being able to see the mirror board. Anybody else?
I couldn't resist jumping in as well. So for me, I do have to think about purpose quite carefully, and I think about it, how it differentiates from my goals. So they are not always necessarily, well, they're aligned, but they're not reliant on each other for their existence. So I can set a goal that may be on a tangent to my purpose, but that is for a period of time when I want to achieve something for a particular outcome. But the purpose And so I see a goal as something I'm heading towards, my current focus, whereas my purpose is really the driving force behind what I'm doing, what I'm engaging in. So, and sometimes even purpose doesn't necessarily sit at the conscious level too powerfully. It just drives me from a subconscious, subliminal. This is the direction that is in line with my purpose. But I may have goals that are, far more mercenary and let's get stuff done. And so purpose for me, yeah, it does evolve over time, but generally it's something that I see as my path through life, what I want to head towards. And so when thinking of that as a collective, as a group, as a community, then I think a lot of our alignment through purpose probably is stronger than some of the goals we set at various points in time. Whereas the most focused and like me and Steve, for example, we rarely are working on the same thing at the same time, and yet we have got such a kindred purpose with him, with you, Steve, and that's something that I think comes from the ground up. It's a group thing. It's a community based thing. Decentralization could be something that is a strong part of my purpose. So yeah, it's fascinating. Thanks, Juan.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I see Nori. I don't know. Maybe it's not Nori, but Chris. I see Nori, Chris, and James.
Nori, did you still have your hand up or want to speak?
I think so. Yes.
I forgot to put it down. Sorry about that.
So
He's in the beach
John,
walking like this, so it's
Jonathan actually kind of spoke what I was basically going to say, but yeah, sometimes those goals, those are evolving all the time. Purpose is a bit more high level, like I want to do good, and then all the things I try to do that showcase that's what I'm trying to do. But the purpose there is a bit more high level, and the goals are, in my opinion, associated with like the pillars of observability, the things that we do, the actions that we take. But those aren't necessarily the purpose, the underlying drive, direction. So you pretty much said it better than I could, Jonathan. Thank you.
It sounds like we need John to repeat some of that stuff about Steve. Oh no. So the word purpose has made me laugh for a long time, because I used to have some friends who they were very, very good dog owners, and they had one of those really smart dogs who could learn many, many different commands. And I forget how many they taught it, dozens though, like go get this thing from this room, along with all the other stuff that you expect. But the one like thing they did is they would ask it, what's your purpose? And they never taught it what they meant when they said that. So this otherwise really talented dog, whenever they would ask it, what's its purpose, it would just start looking really nervous and start like running in a circle, because they just left the meaning of that command out. And it was the most unbelievable thing to watch. We used to laugh so hard. But I think about that, and sometimes I worry that the word purpose has lost its meaning a little bit. And so I wonder in this topic of intentional adaptation, if anybody has helpful tricks to share for how you don't end up like that poor puppy. And when somebody talks about purpose, like what do you do to ground yourself in that term and make it make sense on a day-to-day?
Very good point, James. Actually, that you send us to the next question that we may not have the time to go over, but maybe we can do it in the next session. But it's from strategic planning to strategic intentions, which is make sure that you do something about what you have planned on. In Pareto rule says 80-20, 80 planning and 20 action. Well, that 20 action has a humongous effect, and I'm the proof of that, because there are many things that I have planned, learned, but I don't do, and I think that's the takeaway from this for me, that the purpose has to do with action, and we have to really put action to it to be able to be effective. Do we still 5 minutes from the next section, or we go to the next one? Unfortunately, but we have all these questions that we don't need to cover them right now, but the whiteboard is there for everybody to come and make comments and put a sticky note or have thoughts about it. And one of the important things out of this session is first is we have to take something home out of this. And also prepare for change. How do we prepare for what is potentially coming in any area of our lives? Just think future, think planning with a sense of purpose, and you find the answer to that, I guess. Good. So now let's go to the next part, which is a very interesting way to see communities and what happened in the world. And the Chi device actually wasn't Chi. This is a reference to, I apologize, I don't have the website for that. It's one of the quotes that she has. She has many quotes that are very valuable and illustrates everything very well. And I don't have it right now with me, but this actually is a website that is very organized. I wish someone can find that out for me. At the end of the chapter is where it's located, and talks about different the way to classify social, political, economic, and cultural transformations. She talks about that in nature things happen as a shock and as a slide. Shocks are acute moments of disruption. Thank you, James. Movementgeneration.org, exactly. So slides are incremental by nature, and they end up having the result is shifts, which are cultural, economic, political, and social transformation. What I would like to do right now is to start thinking about collective aha moments that trigger these changes. If you have any ideas of have experience of see any moments that are triggers for big changes that we can discuss.
It's Dan. In the UK at the moment, we're going through a lot of political and social economic change. And I think what has happened is that people are starting to wake up to the fact that there's all these very rich people in control who are basically stomping on the, sorry if this is a little bit political, are stomping on the populace, trying to control us. And we've got our health service, the nurses, doctors, ambulance crews are striking, the postal workers are striking, the train workers are striking. They're all stopping working because they're basically being treated very, very badly and not paid for it. a fair wage. So I think that goes into the slide. It's incremental by nature. We've had a very right-wing party in power for the last 12 years, and they have slowly been eating away at our freedoms and eating away at the value that the working man gets. And they're getting to the point where there's going to be an acute moment of disruption. There's going to be a shock. The populace is going to say enough is enough. Just my thoughts on things. I'm going to stop because I'm a bit passionate about it.
Passion is good. So thank you for that, Dan.
How do you think we can evaluate what a shock is and a slide is without knowing the time scale? Like, how do we figure out the time scale in the first place?
Yeah, shocks happen from one day to the next. And the slides are incremental by nature with me, which means, let's say, climate change. It's a slide, you know. Actually, that's the example that the book provides. I'm sorry, Norman, you were, oh, Norman fell. Okay. Matthias?
Yeah, so timescale is interesting because for example, ChatGPT, right, has been a technological shock for many. But if you have been working in the field, it is really a slide. However, the shock factor comes into place because the societal changes it has in education, for example, in academia, right? Finally, people started thinking about how to assess for knowledge acquisition and how, students may use that knowledge to actually use it and not, write a essay in a specific format, right? Which is ridiculous. I just had a childhood development class in the winter just for continued learning, and it was the worst teacher ever. Like, I have my master's. This is like an associate's. Like a childhood development tool. It's like very, very, very basic, and it's the worst students I've ever encountered in all of my classes, including high school. Right. So it's very, very poorly. However, the format, I made like long papers and whatnot. And oh yeah, but the introduction, was like not exactly the same format. It was like, fuck you. Like, this is ridiculous. Right. Still got my A because I know how to play the system. But, I think that is one instance where it's a shock in the broader sense of things. But if you're in the field, you've seen it coming because you actually also might have, developing in the same sector. So time scale is an interesting one. Context matters again, I think.
That makes so much sense, Matthias. And it makes me wonder, like what Steve was saying earlier about paying attention to the local. Is it possible that one outcome of paying attention to our neighbors is that we end up less shocked by things? If your ear is to the ground, I like an earthquake is always going to shock me, but in terms of like societal disruption, if you're paying attention and talking to people, you have to be aware that things are possible.
But then again, this is the context of Matthias talked about. If you are a meteorologist who every day looks at the graph and you see that coming, then you're not shocked when it comes because it kind of predicted you that, in 72 hours I should be shaking based because the earth is shaking me.
You're paying it right, even that, you're paying attention. That's right. Right. Even an earthquake won't shock you. Very good.
Yeah, that bringing that to what we do here with Gimbal Labs and also Cardano in general. How do you see that Cardano fits into these concepts?
For one, I think Cardano has a purpose that is unmovable, which is basically being the financial layer of like the world, right? Which includes individual autonomy. That's what I thought the purpose for Cardano is. I don't know if we can change that purpose at all for Cardano.
Based
Gimbal
on
Labs?
SIP 1600, we can.
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead. Hey, I see you.
Can
No.
you hear me?
Oh,
There we
gotcha.
go. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Matthias, that's a really good example. With regards to ChatGPT, people have just been like, mind blown, like, oh my God. Right. But then for those who are, gradually following it, or even like, with the stable diffusion stuff, DALI and stuff. But yeah, I think a personal aha moment, which I suppose is in line with this whole conversation of if you've been part of the, if you've been following a thing, then it's not a surprise, but if you've not, then it is. I've been really looking into tax over the last few months, and given that, it's not my particular domain of expertise or experience, one thing that for me was an aha moment was in connecting the tax with where crypto is going. And, so if you think of tax as basically like this incentive mechanism, it kind of becomes undermined. It undermines other things like duty fees, right? Countries usually have, these taxes which they levy over particular goods which come over the border, right? To try and, regulate or incentivize stuff, to be manufactured or grown, etc., locally. In just, looking into tags and understanding crypto, like, it then occurred to me that culturally this is going to really fundamentally change a lot of stuff when you have people in different countries where the cost of living is different to different countries, but you're here earning an asset which will basically like raise the boat for particular individuals, and in doing so disrupt, like they'll then be able to, move from location to different location, which will then gradually undermine these historical incentive structures, which take the form of tax and tax in different forms, like duty fees, etc., income tax, corporate tax, in being able to have this portability. So for me, I suppose, yeah, of late, that's kind of just been, one of my aha moments, and just realizing just how fundamentally different this shift is going to be, or how fundamental, of a change this is going to be. And that's not even speaking to the AI stuff.
My point. And I think it's going to be a totally different dimension in every single way. And the reality is that it's not easy to prepare for that. I know that there are things that we can do, but in reality, there is too much unknown that in reality, the only thing we can do is do what you are doing here. Think about this, tinkle with technology and ask that question all the time, beyond the uncomfortable zone that always allows to learn more and more. So yeah, I was looking at the chat and I saw a lot of activity on the chat. Unfortunately, I cannot follow all that, but I saw I don't see it now. Anyway, a lot of activity in the chat. If someone can follow up with that, I appreciate that. Please. We are at the top of the hour. I mean, 10 minutes away from the top of the hour, so we will switch to more elegant steps, and handle the mic to James. Looking forward to see you tomorrow. We continue with the same frame, the same setup. I think we can work a little more on the tokenomics part that relates to the book, but yeah, with the same frame. Back to you, James.
Thank you, partner. Juan,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you facilitating today. Yeah, there's some great stuff in the chat that I don't think we can fully cover today. So there's great sources of some next most elegant steps. I dropped personally in here just a couple of quotes that in the context of our conversation felt kind of interesting to me in the context of tokenomics. So I would love to think about some of these concepts tomorrow if they fit on the agenda. Besides that, if I zoom out on the Miro board here, we've been keeping track of next most elegant steps.
The
Did
first
they
meeting,
move?
I think.
And
Oh,
while
here
you're
they are.
looking for
They're
that,
little-
I just wanted to point out something really on page 71, right? So there it says adaptation reduces exhaustion. No one bears the burden alone of figuring out the next move and muscling towards it. And then it goes on. So we don't have to put the burden on James alone.
Yeah.
So
we've all taken on so much burden here, and this is it, right? Like, to me, that's the other one I underlined, Matthias, and we're in that stage described on page 70. Decentralized work requires more trust building up front, and you could replace the word with trust with all sorts of building up front. But if we do this right, we can initialize systems that successively feel a bit easier for people. And what's most exciting is that if we're building systems that feel easier to other people, they get easier for us too. You know, so it's such an exciting moment. We've all been working our asses off, and it's a really good feeling to share it with each other. So thanks. Yeah, that part really resonated. Well, we keep next most elegant steps here. And, you know, unlike some of the other times we get together, it's okay if right now this meeting doesn't lead to direct action. Personally, I find that this time helps provide me with the purpose that makes direct action make more sense in all the other meetings that we have, right? So like, because of this meeting, I'll be better able to take on some next most elegant steps from live coding into different projects I'm working on. With that in mind, how did everybody do with this one last week? Did people get a chance to go for walks or exercise and think about some of these concepts?
I had today.
Some people are out taking, I mean, what I would give to all be on the trail together for this meeting, just to be hiking and talking. But yeah, anybody want to add anything to the board right here? Or is there anything that we dropped in here that it's urgent to make sure we do over the next few days?
James, Stan.
Yeah. Hey, Dan.
Hey. Yeah, a next most elegant step for maybe once we've finished the scheduled book club meetings, maybe have a couple of meetings which, as you say, is you go for a walk. Most people have got mobile phones with 4G coverage or 5G coverage. We could actually plan to go for a walk together for an hour. That would be kind of cool.
Sorry, I'm on Google Fi. I pay for data. I'm a cheapskate.
So we're all gonna go for a walk and tell Matthias how nice our walk is. That's
yeah.
He's got to pay to play.
I'm for it.
Maybe without video and good audio compression, I'll do it.
Well, maybe your Tesla has signal.
Yeah,
it does, but it's not going for a walk.
walk around,
Right.
That's right. Walk around it.
And they still don't have Zoom integration, believe it or not. Terrible,
No, actually,
terrible.
Matthias, just do this. Open up the app and have it follow you. Like use the what the hell is that feature called? Where you can like call it to yourself.
Summon.
Summon, exactly. Thank you. Use summon and walk your Tesla.
Wait, you can summon your Tesla to drive itself to you?
For parking.
Yeah.
For parking. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
You can actually control it like a remote too. Actually, that's probably even easier. It's just have it go forward and you keep controlling it like a remote because it does have that too.
Yeah, just sensors.
Oh, this one. Thank you,
James. It's just sensors. That's it.
Sensors.
I love the idea of going for a walk together. I've been thinking a lot about landscape and the landscape and the boundaries of my sort of perception, and sitting behind the computer in my office. It is pretty awesome in there, but it doesn't really hold the candle to the intricacy, diversity, intelligence, unexpectedness, the things that can happen in this natural environment. So that, what an innovation. Like, let's all go for a walk together. I feel like the quality of our ideas get better. It's just better with exercise so I'm not joking as far as just get on the treadmill or walk around your house, but there's let's break the frame of the computer human interface and use this technology. We need to, Nora, you can help me out with this. It's like the complexity curve where our complexity generation outpaces our capacity to manage or handle that complexity. So it's sort of like level up. So immediately we need to start using ChatGPT. We need to be at the innovative sort of edge, holding the purpose in mind and the values from our fathers and grandfathers, grandmothers and mothers. I feel like it's important. And I think we all hit on something very powerful for me today. So I really want to end on saying thank you.
Thank you,
That's beautiful. Newman, thank you. Great idea too. This is actionable, right? And I agree. I have completely different thoughts when I'm walking than sitting in front of a computer. And to have those together, that's one of these obvious ideas. Why? Yeah, we got to do this. And then can't we just get the transcript from a Zoom recording and then feed that to some AI system, and it can tell us the most important points of what we talked about? I would love to do a complete loop on that and see what insights it raises. Very cool.
It's totally possible too, because it's already been tested and done. Ottera isn't perfect at describing stuff, but you may need to some cleaning, but then you can drop that into ChatGPT and have a framework questions about, okay, what are the action items, what were thought about, and it gives you all that information on point. And it also, this discussion reminded me of my childhood that I think biology lessons were interesting because sometimes the teacher just take us all outside and you thought that this is not a lesson anymore. And you learned about, okay, these leaves learn like this, but you didn't use textbook because it felt more natural and you saw the stuff. And when your mind wandered, it wasn't so obvious because and it was more allowed even.
A biology textbook is a blockchain relevant metaphor for the intermediary that separates us from the natural world, right? So when we talk about losing intermediaries, that's one neat example. So we are at time. Curtis, take us home with some last words.
Well, actually, I was going to say thanks, Tivo, for introducing our AI tool that we're building, Insight.IQ, because you just described exactly what we're attempting to build out.
Excellent.
And then I was just going to say, James, the theme that the transcriber would pick up, oh, you guys talked about, because the wind in the background. No, everybody,
Sounds like
thank you for this.
mountaintops.
Yeah. Thank you for this conversation. I always enjoy it, and I appreciate everybody's presence. Thanks.
Thanks as always, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bridging towards tokenomics. Before that, we'll be talking GPT governance, if anybody can stop by. Cheers.
Thank you.
As always, see everybody.